All right, guys, welcome to the Just Arrival podcast. I'm DJ Abcool, aka my full name, Abdi Ramirez, and my co-host here, Aaron, aka the Texans fan, right? Uh, Aaron, how have you been doing, man, this past weekend or this past week, might I say? Um, what has been your reaction to the Texans season thus far?
Honestly, so far I've been, after this past game against the Jaguars, I've been having a good week. I've had a good supporting cast, keeping me going. So I'm not as depressed as I was last week. But heading into this video, if we somehow lose to the damn Titans, the Oilers, I don't care how you call them. If we somehow lose to them, oh, you're gonna see me miserable next week, all next week. I won't even want to wear no more Texan gear for this season. But nah, overall, this past game, it was one of those games where we fought, and the defensive side we looked good, but offensive side once again we looked like crap. But if you got to catch the game or highlights, like, did you see anything that sort of like impressed you from the offense or anything like that?
Yeah, and I think this is exactly, where we need to start is with the Texans, right? I would like to start with the Colts and what we did, but the Texans, I think we should start with the Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars win 17-10, and I mean, my first thoughts here is like that ending of the game, Aaron, was just wow. Stroud
Yeah.
throws that interception and that seals it up, and I
Mhm.
think when you look at Stroud in the pocket, something is like it's almost like he's trying to be the hero. He's trying to make the
Yeah.
play, but he's not really staying in the pocket. He's not throwing these timely throws on time.
Mhm.
CJ Stroud looks like a quarterback that is uncomfortable behind that offensive line, right? That offensive line
Yeah.
is not giving him the protection he needs. His weapons are getting open, but he's just having miscues because of the poor protection. So when you really look at it offensively for the Texans, it hasn't been great to the start that you've been wanting to see as a
Mhm.
Texans fan.
Yeah, and it all comes down to like you said, the offensive line, especially because I saw a ranking of the Jaguars' defensive line, like Josh Allen, them ranking as honestly the top five defensive lines in the league, which is crazy to see that Jaguars have a great defensive front, but then they can lose games because of their offense being stagnant. Uh, and this is one of the type of games that we should have won because their offense was stagnant with over 7 drops, I believe, that the Jaguars had in key moments as well, from Brian Thomas dropping about, I believe it was 3 drops he had in that game. But like I said, overall, it all was coming down because of our offense from all 4 quarters, I believe, not doing nothing at all until the defense decided to make plays, from Jalen Petre's interception, from Trevor Lawrence throwing a bad pass, to just consistently stopping the Jaguars on fourth down. But, and, it once again, it all boiled down to who can hold their own, which the Texans couldn't, because somebody like our rookie at left tackle, Arianta Ursary, he did have a terrible game, allowing, I believe it was 5 pressures, 2 sacks. And who was he going up against? Josh Allen. Josh Allen being up, and honestly, he looks like an all pro
Yeah.
and for this year, because he was honestly getting to Arianta Ursary. The first interception, I can blame CJ because he tried dumping it off to Christian Kirk, but he threw the ball too low into double coverage, and everybody was just watching like, "What are you doing?" Because this is a scoring position that we were in on the other side of the field. And the second interception, I will blame Arianta Ursary, because on that final play, Arianta Ursary was pushed back all the way to CJ. Josh Allen tipped the ball out of his hand, but he still threw it, tipped it, but it was enough time for, I forgot the cornerback's name, but he intercepted the ball. That was the end of the game. But overall, there were key moments, like when, as I said before, Jalen Petrie got the interception on Trevor Lawrence. The next play, the offense came out. CJ dumped the ball off to Nico down the field, wide open. And when they got the touchdown, you could see the energy that CJ had. This is the type of energy we've been wanting to see all season. He was pumping his chest, everything. And we thought maybe we could win this game. But once again, the offense just decided to stay stagnant. They were inconsistent. Blocking was not holding their own, and Jaguars took it full advantage. They got the ball back, scored it, and they gave us time left on the clock, but we couldn't take advantage, in which the interception took place afterwards.
Yeah, and it just hasn't been great. I mean, you really talk about it. It hasn't been amazing for the Texans offense. Not great at all, and just a lot of things just going wrong. In the run game as well. Joe Mixon
Mm-hmm.
being out, has that? You think, Aaron, has that played a part in some of the failures on the Houston offense is the missing of Joe Mixon, or do you think it's more though just the offensive line as a whole? Like even if Joe Mixon was there, do you
Hmm.
believe that the offensive line, because of the issues at up front, with Houston,
Hmm.
do you really think that those issues had a lot to do, with the Houston offense success, which failures, which it has, right?
Hmm.
Do you believe that if Joe Mixon were there, would there be that impact, that could push Texans forward to get maybe a win right now, be 1-2? Or do you think that things would still remain the same?
Honestly, from my point of view, it's a percentage, like a percentage of it, a small percentage of their production. Like we were, hoping to see more from Christian Kirk, but he only had, I believe, 2 catches for 20 yards. I think it was. Let me look about it again. It was Houston. Oh, it was 3 catches for 25 yards with Nico leading the receiving with 8 catches, 104 yards. But overall, it kind of didn't look like anybody's getting the ball passed to. So Christian Kirk, he was there, but he sort of was there, but not there to where you'd love to see him when we've been waiting for him for over 3 weeks because we've heard so much about his chemistry with CJ in the offseason. But when it comes to Joe Mixon, he is, that player that we loved to see last year, making the cuts, making his routes inside the hole, even if it was a bad offensive line. Because last year, I'm not gonna lie, last year was worse. This year is a bit better, but still can stay inconsistent. But overall, if Joe Mixon was playing right now, I can still see him having his ferociousness with how he plays, but I can still see us not staying consistent with the run game. Like as I was saying on my video on my channel, we only ran the ball 15 times. It says 19, but that's because CJ ran the ball 4 times. But we ran the ball 15 attempts, and that is low. That's too low to be running a ball. So it's still just the Nick Chubb and Woody Marks running back show right now. And Nick Chubb, he still has that power in him. He still makes about 6 to 7 yards per game at the times. But the way I've been talking lately, we have to honestly push Nick Chubb away and start Woody Marks because Woody Marks he was ranked in college last year, the number 1 passing back, and he caught a pass against the Jaguars where he caught it and juked about 3 guys out of his way and almost got the first down. And his run game, he can find his hole and he's tough to bring down. So this is why I say maybe even this week's game we can start Woody Marks because the Titans defense is good, but it's one of those where you feel you can tee off on them in a way, like to see who you've got on your team because we're just not utilizing anybody this year, especially with our rookies, Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. Both of them combined with only 2 catches against the Jaguars game, which is just terrible to see. And this is all because of how we boiled it down to. They say we're going off of the Rams offensive scheme book, but no, we're actually going off of the Patriots system, which is how the Patriots never really took their rookies to where they should have been. So they always kept their veterans. And just today there was a press conference with offensive coordinator Nick Haley, and honestly, he was just stuttering off and on, and you could just tell he's not confident anymore. He went on to say, this is a tweet from Cody Stutes. This is not that Nick Haley said, this is not a copy and paste New England Patriots system. And everybody's just looking like, what is up with y'all bringing up the Patriots now? Like, we're not even asking y'all questions about the Patriots, but y'all know that this is how other teams see y'all, like Todd Bowles last week saying, oh, their offense reminds me of the Patriots. Then the Jaguars coach, he was in their locker room knowing that, we expected them not to do much on offense. That's why we elected to defer after the coin toss. So knowing and hearing that is just so abysmal and terrible to hear that all these teams know they can just blitz you and get to your quarterback to stop that offense because of how inconsistent they've been.
Exactly. And, when you look at that, what Haley was saying in that press conference, I mean, Aaron, the confidence starts with, right, the staff, right, the head coach,
Yeah.
the Nico Ryans, and obviously you've seen his conferences, right? Haley, you look at what he said, it's not a lot of confidence, and that doesn't even give confidence or leadership, right? Offensive coordinators, they're the play callers, they're the guys that need to be confident in their play calling, and showing that in confidence and not being confident in the play calling from the offensive coordinator, in themselves, it really just shows that the offense is not going to perform to the level that fans want to see if the offensive coordinator doesn't even have confidence in their own play calling, right? That's the play caller that has, the offensive play caller has to have confidence in their own play calling. That's just common sense at that point.
Yeah.
And if Nick Haley's not having that confidence in that press conference and not showing it through the games, right, that they can play call a full 4 quarters of football, then you deservedly don't deserve to be the offensive coordinator. And I think Houston Texans fans are starting to agree with that statement right through 3 games. Now, obviously, it's early in the season. We have yet to see more. But this Titans game upcoming, Aaron, I want to see how you feel about this game because this is going to be the true test to see if this Texans offense – this Titans defense, they aren't, bad, right? They're still pretty good, right? Just because the Colts put, 34 offensive points on them this last week, that doesn't mean a lot because the Colts offense is fantastic. They're the complete opposite of Houston, right? You see the offensive line, right? The offense is just clicking on all cylinders. And you look at the Texans and they're not clicking on all cylinders and it's the complete opposite, right? Aaron, how confident do you feel going into this Titans game? And you think that this is the true test to see if the Texans offense can be right for real this season, if this offense can be sustainable, right? You can argue.
No, and this is a definitely must-win game because if we don't win this game, we're gonna go 0-4. And if you look at our schedule, you see who we play next week. We have no confidence in who we play next week, which is the Baltimore Ravens. We have no confidence in that game, so that's why we hope and pray we win this game against the Titans. And if we don't, we're at this point already coming up with the mock drafts. We're already like predicting in our head, like, oh, let's wonder what pick we can get, and maybe we can trade back in the draft next year. And that, like, early in the season, already talking about mock drafts, about who we should trade or cut, be sellers before the trade deadline. But with this game coming up, because I've looked at Tennessee's rankings, Tennessee ranking 17th against the pass, ranking 29th against the rush. So you see that their pass defense is pretty all right, but their rush defense is very below average. So that's why this is the type of game where this is why I said Woody Marks and Nick Chubb, I hope to see them get more than combined 15 attempts at rushing, because 15 attempts at rushing, like, just seems like, oh, you're just giving the blueprint to the other team knowing that you're just going to pass all the time. And with Tennessee, they're ranking 30th with 31.3 points allowed per game. So this is a game where you got to hope that as a fan you see that they understand that they can attack this defense because of how inconsistent the Tennessee Titans defense can be. And the reason why I believe, they look good on paper, but the reason why they will allow points is because, like our defense, they run on and off the field because of how inconsistent their offense is. And I truly believe that we will get the W, even though I've said it every week, we will get the W and we've lost all these games. But when it comes to the Tennessee Titans offense with Cam Ward, running back Tony Pollard, they're receiving, like, it's all inconsistent for this. Like, their leading receiver is their tight end. So, and especially when they have Calvin Ridley at the wideout. But you can see that Tennessee, they don't know who they are as well offensively, but this is the type of game where, with our, honestly, all-star defense that we have, who keeps teams below 20 points, honestly. I think we allow 17.3 points per game. But overall, that's, like, so good for us. We're ranked 5th in points allowed per game. So this is the game where, honestly, we should look like the way y'all played against them defensively, because y'all shut them out last week. So this is the game where I hope we can prove that we're on the same level of shutting them out, winning the game, and saying, okay, let's see where we can bring our team back with this momentum.
Yeah, definitely. And I trust that Houston Texans defense very much. And, in terms of my prediction, right, I believe that the Houston Texans, this is a must win, like you said, Aaron. As that statement says, crystal clear. The Houston Texans are in dire need of a win. And it's to wake up the fan bases to, revamp that hope, right? Because, Houston Texans fans right now are just, throwing in the towel, being like, this is over. The media, the journalists, trying to write the articles being like, this is over. Houston Texans just all negative right now. But the team, the coaching staff, it all comes down to DeMeco Ryans and that leadership in the coaching staff and that leadership with CJ Stroud, just being confident, being able to revamp this team. And I trust CJ Stroud especially and this defense, to try to get it together and just making sure that the leaders, whether in the defense or whether on offense, to, just revamp this Houston Texans team to get that win because, again, you guys really need it, right?
Yeah.
Going 1-3, That's what you guys need. This Titans team, you know, it isn't really a team that's getting behind its coach right now. They're having issues
Yeah.
with Callahan and the play calling and everything. It's a whole lot of drama in Tennessee right now. With Houston, I see a locker room that still hasn't been lost yet. D'Amico Ryan
Yeah.
still has it. You know, D'Amico Ryan is a great leader and has shown it. So I have no doubt that the Houston Texans will win. I'm going to have the score being here a little closer than, what the Colts did. I think it's going to be still a relatively good win for the Houston Texans. I'm going to say that Cam Ward and that offense get no more than 10. I think that the Texans should be able to shut them down. I think the Texans offense will struggle here and there, but will find a way to win in the end. I'm going to have the score being 24-10. Houston Texans winning.
Honestly, I was gonna go 20-10. So we're both on the same level because honestly, that does sound like a reasonable score. But with us, it's always a close game every week. So I'll stick with 20-10. But moving on from the Texans versus Titans, we're gonna go into the Colts being 3-0, which is really, really surprising. And I feel I've called their wins every game, and I'm just like, as a Texan fan, like, should I stop calling their W's because it looks like they're winning because I'm saying it. But overall, y'all honestly, even though the Tennessee Titans scored 20 points against y'all, it was already over before they even scored to get to 20. And the way our offense looked, the way our defense looked, that was just to where y'all to where the NFL fans in general are looking at the Colts like, this team might be legit. So coming from your perspective, how'd you see this game with how it went, how it ended?
Well, I was seeing the Cam Bynum interview happen with Josh Downs. Well, not really interview, but the podcast, right?
Yeah.
And Cam Bynum mentioned how that pick six really started the momentum for the Colts defense. And that's the power of starting, deferring the coin toss, starting on defense. The defense gets to really start that tone, right? If you can get a pick six to start the game, about 7 to 8 times out of 10, you're winning that football game because you started off hot, you're starting off right, you're starting to prove, hey, we're here and we're here to win, especially on the road. In Tennessee, Nashville, right, you got to start hot at home or else Tennessee, those fans will go rioty and that team will start to climb back up. So when I look at the Colts starting off hot with that pick six by Kenny Moore, right, a beauty, right, just definitely so amazing to get that start. And the Colts offense looked fantastic. I mean, Daniel Jones, 18 of 25, 228 yards, 1 touchdown, looked really good. Jonathan Taylor coming in, right, 6 a carry. Like you said, Nick Chubb can have a huge game, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor was 17 carries for 102 yards, 3 touchdowns with a 46 long. And in the receiving game, Michael Pittman, 6 for 73, a touchdown, 20 long, right? So you look throughout the receiving board, throughout it all, offense, hitting on all cylinders. And, while the Houston Texans offense isn't like the Colts offense, right, you'll see how the Texans offense can kind of use the blueprint here. And the Colts offense just did fantastic. And on defense, of course, like you said, Cam Ward overall was 23 of 38, right? Not great, not bad either, right? It was kind of like, he was okay, right? Just did enough. And of course, Lou Anarumo, defensive coordinator, he was kind of a little more, you could say, passive in the second half because the Colts in that third quarter got a 27-6 lead. So it makes sense for Lou Anarumo to get a little more like, hey, let's let them, work for the yards. Let's cover up top.
Yeah.
And let's let them get everything underneath, right? Let's let them milk that clock, right? They're going to score. Let's let them milk that clock. And that's exactly what Lou Anarumo did in company in that Colts defense. So, yeah, they got 20, but, I mean, it was too late anyway. Colts had 27-6 lead early on in that third, and by then it was already over, right? 27-6, that's just hard to kind of turn that game around. So I felt really good about this win, really amazing. But now the Colts are going to travel to Los Angeles to play the Rams, man, this elite offense. Aaron, I want to hear from a Texans fan perspective, from an outsider looking in. What do you think of this matchup between the Colts and the Rams?
So honestly, whenever I was doing my weekly prediction video, honestly, I couldn't even at first I couldn't even pick a winner because I was like, this is gonna be one of those tough games. Honestly, the Rams, they should be 3-0 as well, but they entered the game against the previous Super Bowl champions, the Eagles, by them getting their field goal blocked to lose the game. But the Rams, they were right there to win the game. If they wouldn't have blocked that field goal, they could have possibly won and been 3-0. So the way the Rams defense is, they are hard, they are tough, but I feel, with the offense that y'all have, Dan Jones, Sykin, they can come up with a plan to where they'll hit the right routes of where the most dangerous spots on the Rams defense is. And when it comes to your defense, it's basing off of their run game. Kyron Williams, he's a good running back. Making sure you keep your eye on Puka, because Puka's leading the league in receiving with 333 yards. And overall, it's just keeping Matthew Stafford uncomfortable as well. So honestly, I believe this game is going to be those type of games where whose defense will stop this offense. And if they do, you feel like once the other offense gets the ball, they'll score, and that score will be the reason they win the game. So honestly, I could either see this game ending in a field goal or ending in just overall like who's going to score first in the fourth quarter and whose defense is going to hold the other offense just shut out in the fourth quarter. I feel this will be that type of game where y'all just standing up, watching the game, watching the TV, like we need to win this game. And overall, this will be even more of a tougher task for Daniel Jones. This is a great playoff team that I believe Rams will be a playoff team, as well as y'all, because y'all look great. But this will be a tough task for Daniel Jones. This is a task for Jonathan Taylor to have another great game. And honestly, it's going to be one of these type of games as well that to see where your defense really is, especially going up against, a good offensive scheme, the way Sean McVay runs his offense.
Yeah, and if you're a Colts fan, if you're even the Colts media, you're so glad that we have Lou Anarumo now and not Gus Bradley, freaking Matt Eberflus, play freaking 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. Matthew Stafford is gonna shred you. Okay, if you're playing 10 yards off the line of scrimmage and you're playing cloud zone, cover three, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work, and sitting in those zones, Stafford's just gonna pick you apart. So I like with Lou Anarumo is the art of confusion, right? The art of the mad scientist, right? Dr. Lou. This is the guy that you hired to kind of mix things up on the defensive side. So to even have a chance against Stafford, I think Lou Anarumo kind of gives the Colts just a chance to win this game. And with the chance, you got to take advantage of it. So, as a fan, right, as, someone that has been seeing the Colts through these 3 games, I believe they can win this game, Aaron. And I wouldn't be lying to you. Am I a little, hesitant, nervous?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. There's good reason to be. They have Puka Nacua. They have Matthew Stafford, who is getting rid of the ball really quick, right? This is a guy who's coming in elite, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. This is going to be a big test for the Colts defense. But when I look at the Rams, there obviously are some, right? There's weaknesses, right? When you look at their interior on that offensive line, they have that center, Coleman Shelton, who got a 44.8 PFF grade against the Eagles. Wasn't really that great. The left guard, Justin might be saying his name wrong. Justin Didak, who was 31.9 and was horrible against the Eagles defensive line, right? And of course, the Eagles front is different than the Colts front, but the Colts do have Grover Stewart, do have DeForest Buckner on that interior. And my question is, can that Colts defensive front kind of expose the offensive line weaknesses and get pressure, make Stafford uncomfortable, because that's going to be the key to winning. And not only that, but on the offensive side, you flip it to that. What are the keys to winning there? And I would argue that the keys to winning would be exposing those corners, right? When you look at the bottom 5 defense in PFF grades for those corners, Emmanuel Forbes was 51.7, right? When you look at Forbes, he gave up 4 catches on 5 targets for 46 yards, including the game-winning touchdown by Devontae Smith, right? Don't forget that. And when you look at their bottom 5 defense, again, we look at Emmanuel Forbes and going to their other corner, right? Their other corner as well is going to be Kobe Durant, who, again, Kobe Durant and Emmanuel Forbes, they aren't really tall corners. And when you look at the Colts receiving core, they have a lot of tall guys, and Michael Pittman, Adonai Mitchell coming in at 6'2", Michael Pittman 6'4", Tyler Warren is 6'6", and you look at the height of the corners. And when it comes to the Rams, you're going against, Emmanuel Forbes is coming in at 6 foot exact, and Kobe Durant, who is around 5'11", 6 foot. So again, you're really looking at the height difference there. And that's really going to help out with the Colts, right? Because Daniel Jones, you throw it up high above those corners, right? Michael Pittman, Tyler Warren, they could be feasting in this game, right? So, again, there are things you could exploit in this Rams defense. It's not quite impossible to exploit them. Obviously, the Rams defense, I want to give credit where credit's due. You have Byron Young. You have Jared Verse. You have guys that can get pressure. That front 7 of the Rams, right, is really good. It's nasty, and I could even argue is better than the Broncos that you faced 2 weeks ago. So, again, this is going to be, a challenge for Steichen and company, but is it going to be impossible? No. I see weaknesses in that secondary that I definitely think Daniel Jones could exploit. But the question is with the Rams key to win is getting pressure on Jones, right? Sacking him, right? I'm interested to see the defensive play game plan from the LA Rams here, really, because are you going to blitz Daniel Jones, right, which is shown to fail the past 3 weeks, or are you going to send in and trust your 4 or 5 man pressures? Are you going to trust that and leave 8 to 7 men in coverage, see what Daniel Jones can do, right? Because again, you want to do that 4 to 5 man pressure. I'm interested to see what the LA Rams do here, because if they blitz, it's going to be a rough day for that secondary, right? But if they send in that 4 or 5 man pressures, maybe we'll see where the Colts offense can slow down, right? Or again, we just have to wait and see for this football game. But the keys for the Colts to win this football game is really just going to be in that interior with DeForest Buckner, with Grover Stewart, with the edges and Laiatu Latu, right? Either Laiatu Latu or Kwity Paye have to have a big game, right, against Stafford right here and try to get pressure on him and make him uncomfortable. Like you said, again, Stafford, he could move on his feet, but he's not exactly known as like the running type of quarterback, right? He's more of that pocket quarterback that can like shred you with his arm, right? So if you can get pressure, make Stafford uncomfortable. On the offensive side, it's all about exploiting those corners, exploiting that secondary. If you can do that, I think the Colts win this football game. So, Aaron, I'm being honest. I have the score being, it's going to be a little tight, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to have it being a game-winning field goal, 27-24, Colts win in LA and start 4-0.
Yeah, and I was going to come in to say, when you were talking about Matthew Stafford, he is already up there in age. He is type to where he doesn't move as much as he used to, especially in Detroit, because Detroit, he moved his body. He was just, he won a game with a broken arm, but with him up here in his age, like from a stat that I just saw right now is he's been picked off once in each game the past 2 weeks against Tennessee and against the Eagles. So Matthew Stafford, he can be trigger happy to where he might throw into some coverage, especially if your defense like plays a good hidden coverage so where they can intercept the ball. I can see it. I can see that happening because, and looking at each team's rankings, it's pretty crazy with how close they are to each other. Like Colts ranking 5th in passing, Rams defense in passing is 10th. Your rushing is 3rd in the league. There's 13th. So it's like this will be a good fun matchup because you want to see whose defense is going to stop the other, as I said before. And, if anybody looks at the rankings, anybody looks at the stats, they'll know that this is the game to see. Like, this is honestly could be a playoff game or even like, especially, but even though they're on AFC, NFC, this could be honestly what looks like a Super Bowl game because of how good these two teams are, how good the coaches are, how they can play, how their chemistry is, both these teams with their players. The only thing coming from me as a Texas fan is with the Rams, they weren't blitzing us too much, but mainly because we had a crap offensive line. They were just running their conservative plays. But the main guy you got to look for is their linebacker, Landman. He's like a really good spy as a linebacker. So he will keep his eyes on Daniel Jones. But when you have weapons like Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Downs, Dan Jones looking as good as he is, honestly, I could see the Colts doing better than expected because, I called it last week. I literally said on the episode, I said, I believe Colts will beat the Titans down. That's why, like, a lot of each week, it's everything I've been saying about the Colts has been happening, especially with how I said in the offseason, I believe Daniel Jones will do good coming from a crap organization and the Giants coming to a great culture in the Colts. So I know his momentum is up, going 3-0. I know his confidence is up with his stats and how it looks because he could be comeback player of the year or hell, who even knows if y'all stay as good as y'all are, who knows, he can maybe even be MVP or Jonathan Taylor be MVP because Jonathan Taylor is literally leading the league in rushing compared to every other team's running backs. And that's crazy to see whenever I saw that stat. But when I get to the end, when getting to the end of this, I called on my weekly prediction video, my last episode, for the Rams to win. But now I'm leaning towards the Colts winning. This is that coin flip of a game with you don't know which side you want to pick because you feel both sides will win like on a quarter. You don't know heads or tails of who's going to win. But I'll go the same as you. I'll go with Colts winning, and I believe it will be based off of a field goal in the end of the game. And who knows, even if the team got the ball back, maybe not that much time left, seeing if that offense, whoever is trying to come back, see what they do. But overall, this will be a close game that will be won in the fourth quarter with a few minutes remaining.
Yeah, and I mean, similar to the Broncos game where it just gave everyone heart attacks, both sides, right? It's gonna be, I mean, maybe it's gonna be similar to that game, right? You're facing an elite team in the Rams that, right, better than the Broncos, I could argue, because of the quarterback, because of the front seven, right? And this is gonna be a big test for the Colts, right? Can you go toe to toe with a top 5 NFL team, right? You're top 10 right now, guaranteed. Can you move into that top 5 in the NFL column? Confirmed. And if you beat the Rams, you're top 5 in the NFL. Without a doubt. No matter what any analyst says or, any voice out there like Stephen A or, whatever voice out there in the media says, you are top 5 confirmed. I mean, that is without a doubt for the Colts, if you beat this LA Rams team. So this is going to be a big, if you win, definitely every team in the NFL is going to look at you as a threat now. This is going to be the statement game to say, hey, the Colts are Super Bowl contenders this year if they beat the Rams. And even if they get close, definitely.
Yeah, and honestly, I just looked at your schedule real quick for, after the Rams game. If y'all beat the Rams, honestly, dude, I could honestly see y'all losing only maybe 1 or 2 games going into the bye week because toughest teams that I see are the killers of the LA Chargers because Chargers are looking great. That's a team that'll be a good game, and
Justin Herbert, man.
And maybe the Steelers being another. I don't know. The Steelers are one of those inconsistent teams, but they'll still give you a fight because that's the type of coach Mike Tomlin is for his team. But going on, if y'all beat the Rams, going on, y'all face the Raiders, Cardinals, Titans again, and then the Falcons. Those teams, those could be honestly pretty easy dubs for y'all. And honestly, after the Falcons going into bye week, like I said, I could see y'all maybe having 1 or 2 losses because the way you're looking right now and the way these other teams are looking that y'all are going to play in these next few weeks, I'm just like, oh man, that's going to be the Colts going to be from looked at as a joke in the offseason to now looked at as this is a team that honestly could make it to the AFC Championship or even, who knows, the Super Bowl. And it's all because of the moves that were made, especially the surprising move of Daniel Jones being acquired. Nobody thought this would happen for the Colts, especially with what they thought was the most terrible quarterback room in the league. So seeing how good your offense is, hoping everybody stays healthy, because even I don't want to see nobody go down for y'all because that would be a huge blow if it is somebody key. But going on this Rams game, if y'all win, this will be the sky's the limit for y'all.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the sky's the limit. Again, if you win this Rams game, you have the Raiders, Cardinals. Those should be wins, right? And then you got Week 7. Okay. Again, let's not say they're wins, right? Because again,
it's just reviews.
Yeah, we're not saying anything. Week 7, the Chargers. That's gonna be the next tough game. That's okay. Chargers, Colts are both top 3 teams or top 5 teams in the AFC. You could argue, right? Let's see these 2 teams go against each other, and if the Colts are 6-0 by then, that's gonna be potentially a primetime game, right? The Colts and Chargers can be both undefeated by Week 7, and I think that'll be a really good game. And then you got Week 8 with the Titans. Oh wait.
No, I was just saying real quick. And what would be with us few weeks away from the Chargers game against y'all, the NFL, y'all should come together and say, let's make that the Sunday night game because Colts and Chargers, that'll be a game because nobody expected Colts to be the leader of the AFC South, and nobody expected the Chargers to be leading their division because of how the Chiefs look. So yeah, this is my just thoughts of y'all need to switch that game to Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're already flexing games for the Colts, and that makes sense just because of how good they look. And you look at Week 8, you got Tennessee. Week 9, you got Pittsburgh. Shane Steichen has always had Mike Tomlin's number ever since he's come to the Colts, so I wouldn't be surprised if we just won that game.
Yeah.
And then you got Week 10, right, that international game going against Atlanta, and then after that's the bye. So remember I told you in the season outlook, Aaron, we need to be at least 7-3 or 8-2. And it's crazy to say, but that seems very possible. And even 9-1 seems possible, and that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm about to say, even with one loss, it seems possible.
Yeah. Definitely, even with one loss, and I wouldn't be mad. 8-2, 9-1. That's the way it's looking right now. I wouldn't be mad if we got that. That's
Mm,
already looking like a playoff and even a AFC Championship type of
yeah,
team that you're looking at. So the Colts, we'll see what happens with the Texans. I mean, you really look at it. The Tennessee Titans have to win, and then you got Baltimore Week 5. I mean, that's going to be, hopefully you can win that game, but then you got the bye Week 6.
yeah.
So again, 1 and
Get,
4,
get my
it's kind of
obituary
looking
ready.
like it, but yeah, definitely need 2 and 3. I mean, if you could beat Baltimore, right? Baltimore's defense hasn't been looking that great, but
Yeah, you're
I mean,
right.
so has the Houston offense hasn't looked amazing either.
Mm,
But we have to see. We have to wait and see. Week 4, take it 1 week at a time, right? But to conclude this, right? I think the Colts, they have a good shot to
yeah,
beat this Rams team with Lou Anarumo's DC, Shane Steichen, and Daniel Jones cooking stuff up on the offense. I could see the Colts definitely winning this game. And again, this is going to be an exciting weekend. You got the
yeah.
Ravens Chiefs facing off. One of those two teams is going to be,
1-3, yeah.
possibly one and
Yes.
three. Yeah, that's I don't know.
Um,
It's crazy to
I
me,
picked the
but
Ravens. I picked the Ravens because the Chiefs, they just don't look good. And
yeah,
people can say, "Oh, it's still early," but no, the Chiefs don't look good offensively. Like I saw a stat that was Patrick Mahomes is leading the team in rushing. I'm like, oh, I'm like, when your quarterback is leading the team in rushing, you're just bad offensively.
yeah,
Then I'm just like, oh man,
yeah, definitely. And it's just a disaster. It's
yeah,
not going to go good. And tonight, right? Talk about tonight in about 10 minutes or so, we're going to have the Seahawks and the Cardinals. So time to, go into the primetime games and see who we
hmm.
predict. But who you got there, Aaron, between the Seahawks and the Cardinals tonight in Prime Video?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. This is one of those games where it's two teams that are pretty, average at best, but Cardinals have been struggling, and it's in Arizona, I believe, right? Yeah, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think I remember I did call for Seattle to win, but it's one of those like coin tosses where you're just making a prediction. But I'll still stay steadfast on Seattle winning because Arizona. I've been reading based on Arizona's defense. They're not a good defense. Seattle offensively, they are doing good with Sam Darnold at the helm. Jackson Smith and Jigba is doing great as a receiver. So offensively, I see Seattle being too much for Arizona's defense, and Arizona's offense, they haven't been consistent because Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't looked good this year. Kyler Murray just isn't to me. He isn't that franchise quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, and I could see them at the end of the season, them possibly moving on from him. But we'll see because I know he does have a big contract. But yeah, overall with tonight, I got Seattle winning.
No, yeah, that definitely where I was gonna go. Seattle has looked really good,
Mhm.
really good on that defense, right? And that offense with Sam Darnold. I think I'm gonna have Seattle winning. I'm gonna have Seattle winning here. I think it's gonna be a close game, but I'll say
Yeah,
Seattle wins like 27 to 19 or something like that. I think
yeah,
it'll be like 27-17. Definitely going to be a more tighter game than fans realize, but I think it'll be a good game until the fourth quarter, and I think Seattle will just take
yeah,
off from there. I like what I see from Sam Darnold and that offense with the offensive coordinator coming out of the Huskies, the Washington Huskies. It's
mm,
such an explosive. I love the offense of Seattle. It looks really good. And
yeah.
man, when Seahawks and Colts face off, that'll be a cool game as well.
Oh yeah, most
So
definitely.
I think Seahawks are going to win. In the NFC West, they look great this year. It's
Oh
always
yeah,
those years when the AFC South face them that they look amazing for some reason. That's just so I don't know what's going on there, but NFC West, they're looking amazing. And now moving into the next primetime game, which is going to be a really big one. Well, sort of, right? Is the Green
mm.
Bay Packers visiting the Dallas Cowboys? Who you got in this game, Aaron?
So if anybody saw, I got called out on it. A lot of people were surprised. I pulled out my own like Lee Corso impersonation. I picked
Yeah.
Green Bay. I brought out my cheese head. I brought it out, put it on. I said I got the Green Bay Packers winning because Dallas offensively, they honestly their record doesn't show isn't how their offense is. Their offense is good, but their defense is abysmal. The offense can be inconsistent, but they are that type of offense that can fight because they fought against the Eagles week 1. You saw their game last week against the Giants. This week against the Bears. This was just a great Bears game. Like it was just too much for Dallas's defense. So once again, this all lies down on Dallas's defense, which is why I'm picking Green Bay to win, because Green Bay did have a bad game against Cleveland offensively last week, but they faced a good defensive line on that Cleveland Brown team. So I'm going Green Bay because this will be a bounce back game for them. I do see it being close, but I feel Green Bay will, by the fourth quarter, show that, all right, they're going to win the game. Dallas can try to come back, but we don't see them coming back to win the game.
Yeah, and I have to agree. Green Bay Packers, I think, will definitely win this football game. It's really just because the Cowboys defense, they just don't look that great, right? The
Yeah.
offense looks amazing, or you could say, somewhat good. And CeeDee
Yeah.
Lamb is now hurt. If
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb was in this game, right, there may be a chance for the Cowboys to somehow win this game in like a shootout, but I think the Green Bay Packers should definitely win this game. And that's that. I think the Green Bay Packers should win that football game.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they do. Monday night, we got a doubleheader between two games that are kind of iffy, right? First game is going to be the New York Jets and the Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Who you got there, Aaron?
I know this will be a surprising one, but I'm gonna go with the Jets.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Jets. I'm not gonna because Dolphins look like crap, dude. Like they aren't good. The Jets, if anybody saw their game last week against Tampa Bay, they should have won that game. Tampa Bay should have lost to the Jets. Yeah, and Aaron Glenn coached his ass off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that team with the Jets, they may be 0-3, but they are playing hard for their coach, Aaron Glenn. He was a great hire by the Jets. Even if they are winless right now, it's just because they have a lack of talent. But going up against Miami, who has enough talent to win a game, but they're just terrible. They have terrible chemistry. They have a terrible defense. Their defense, honestly, you could just get them back on the field and they'll allow just too many yards for somebody's abysmal offense. But it comes down to Tua. Tua's been inconsistent with interceptions. Him and Tyreek have been kind of going at it because of their chemistry being just gone out the wind. So I can see Miami, who knows, possibly trading Tyreek at the middle of the season. But overall, I got the Jets winning. I can see it being a close game, but a low-scoring game. But, yeah, overall, I see Jets taking the W over Miami.
I agree. Without a doubt. I don't believe in this Dolphins team like I do in the Jets. I feel like the Jets are the 0-3 team that has a fight in them with Aaron Glenn as the head coach. So no real explanation here. I just think, the Jets, I love the team, right? I like what Aaron Glenn's doing. Justin Fields at quarterback, and the Jets were able to compete with a team like the Bucs with that blocked field goal touchdown, which is crazy, mind-blowing. But the Jets, that just proves that all around as a team, they have a good culture, right? They have a good coaching locker room. I just love what I see from coaching from Aaron Glenn. And, I think this is definitely going to be a win. Even though it's in Miami, I do see the Jets winning this football game. And I'm going to have to agree with you, Aaron. I like what I see from this Jets team compared to the Dolphins, where the Dolphins, I don't know. I just don't know where I see the Dolphins right now. And I like what I see from the Jets. So I'm going to go with them. Now, this next game, the last game, another Monday night doubleheader, right? Part of the doubleheader. The other game is going to be the Bengals traveling to Denver to face the Broncos, right? Jake Browning and the Bengals. Who you got here,
Aaron? Overall, the way I saw it, because especially that beat down the Bengals took against the Vikings. What I was gonna say is, I believe what I thought and believed was Cincinnati won against the Jaguars because the Jaguars were inconsistent. This was the week prior, before the Vikings game. They were inconsistent. You saw their offense just not doing much. So Cincinnati took advantage, even if it is Jake Browning at quarterback. They still have the talent at the weapons for to score for Jamar with T. So overall, it was based on Cincinnati coming back for the W, but it was honestly based on the Jaguars stepping on their own foot, losing that game. And that is why I had picked the Bengals last week because the Vikings. I picked the Vikings last week because I felt Cincinnati only got that W because of the Jaguars stepping on their own foot. And that's what happened. And it was abysmal to watch Jake Browning because I believe, let me look at because he was picked off. I remember that. You see Jake Browning. Yeah, he was picked off 2 times. I believe one was for a pick 6. But with him at quarterback at the helm against a good Denver defense with Patrick Surtain, everybody on that defense in Denver, overall, I got Denver winning, but it's just because of Cincinnati's offense. I don't think it's going to come up to par. I know Denver's offense hasn't looked good offensively, which is surprising because I would have thought Bo Nix would be doing better than this. But I believe this will be a comeback game for Denver. I believe they will, after the loss to y'all, they will come home and get the W that they deserve to get, which will bring them to 2-2. Bengals lose and become 2-2. But yeah, overall, it's going to be based off of Bengals quarterback play, which is why they'll lose game, as well as the Bengals defense, because their defensive line is good with Trey Hendrickson, but he can't be the defense all by himself.
Yeah, definitely. And something that I would say about the Broncos right now, they've gotten really unlucky with their 2 losses, right? They start off week 1 getting the win against Tennessee, and then week 2, week 3, they go against the Colts and the Chargers, who are looking like out of their mind good right now.
Yeah.
And then they lose in like the most heartbreaking ways ever. It's like the ref call on week 2, and then week 3, the field goal, game winning for Justin Herbert. And it seems like nothing is going the Broncos' way. But I think this is definitely a Broncos game to lose, right? Wouldn't you say, Aaron? They're 1-2 heading into this game. Bengals are 2-1, but they should go 2-2. I think this is a game where Jake Browning, right? Broncos have their starting quarterback. Bengals don't. They don't have Joe Burrow, right? Bengals had Joe Burrow in this game. I would say, okay, it could be a competitive matchup, but they don't. And I think the Broncos defense can exploit a lot of like Jake Browning's mistakes, like you said. Vikings defense plays tough, and so does the Broncos. And if anything, the Broncos defense plays just tougher, right? If anything, with their defensive coordinator doing all those stunts, calling those blitzes. I think Jake Brown's going to have a hard time in this football game. I see the Broncos. This is the Broncos game to lose. I see them winning this game, definitely. And, just closing out the podcast here, closing out the episode. This has been really good, Aaron, being able to talk football. Any last thoughts coming from you for the Houston Texans this week?
As I've said, plenty of times before, let's get into perspective. If Miami loses this game, please fire Mike McDaniel so we can hire him as our OC. Please, please. I'm tired of Nick Caley. Mike McDaniels, I want you to lose this game so you can get fired. And who knows, you come back to your boy D'Amico. Come on over. We'd gladly accept you. But overall, that's all I got. This week will be a good week for games. We both predicted, the each team's wins all the same way, with Texans winning, Colts winning. But, we'll see when it comes to Sunday. We'll see if we can both celebrate a W, especially me. But overall, that's just the whole basis of the week. Just, a good time to talk about football once again, like every week we will do all season.
Yeah, definitely. And, that'll do it for this episode, guys. Definitely going through all of it. The Colts, Rams, the Texans, Titans, excellent matchups. And, definitely getting the thoughts out of the way, getting the stress-free going into this week. Texans can hopefully get their first win. Will Colts be an elite top 5 team? We'll find out this Sunday. But you have been just a rival.